Chapter 77. What had disturbed Lee Cherie most about Bernard's note was its evidence of how poorly he knew her. Like women in general, like Aries women in particular, like red-headed Aries women in greater particular, she loathed to be misunderstood. Injustice against others outraged her. Injustice against herself set her to boiling like brimstone soup. After the sacrifices she had made, after the extremity of her commitment, to then be scolded like an errant tot, to be lectured condescendingly, to have her love, their love, regarded frivolously was simply intolerable. The one man who might know how to make love stay, or so she'd thought, had behaved as if the moon were his personal wheel of cheese, and once again her heart's natural inclination to contemplate romantic grandeur had been interrupted by the mundane, betrayed by the egotistical. Never again, by Jesus. Never again, by Jesus. Inside her, something had snapped. She couldn't say that she no longer cared about Bernard, but she could say loudly and clearly that she no longer would she be victimized by caring. She was a princess, a very special entity with very special graces, and from now on, when it came to men, she would call the shots. It occurred to her that in every relationship in which she had participated, in every union older than a year that she'd observed, imbalance existed. Of a couple, one person invariably loved stronger than the other. It seemed a law of nature, a cruel law that led to tension and destruction. She was dismayed that a law so unfair, so miserable, prevailed. But since it did, since imbalance seemed inevitable, it must be easier, healthier to be the lover who loved the least. She vowed that henceforth imbalance would work in her favor. She vowed also, caressing the warped camel pack, as she vowed to enlarge and explore what she'd come to call her theory. She viewed herself as some kind of Argonian link, and the vision that she'd had in that stuffy, silent attic was to be the foundation of her new life's work. To these ends, she sent for Ibn Faisal. When he was courting her, upon her return from Hawaii, Faisal had been a gallant but unattractive companion. Excesses of liquor and rich foods had given him bulbous jowls and a greenish complexion. He rather resembled a tall toad. But when she sent for him, suggesting that she might consent to become his wife, an amazing transformation took place. Putting aside his playboy ways, Faisal checked into a North Dakota health ranch, where he was assigned a diet of grapefruit and raw garlic cloves and made to walk 20 miles a day. At the end of 30 days, he knocked on the door at Fort Blackberry, a slim and handsome figure, reeking only moderately of garlic. Lee Cherie was amazed. Noting the approval in her eyes, Faisal got right to business. He presented her with a diamond as big as a Ritz cracker. The princess was not to be rushed, however. "What do you think about the future of pyramids?" she inquired. Chapter 78. It has been estimated that it would require 6 years and $1 billion to construct the Great Pyramid of Giza with modern technology. To duplicate the Great Chicken of Giza would take even more time and money. But that was Colonel Sanders' problem. Lee Cherie's scheme was not quite so ambitious. A pyramid 1/3 the size of Giza would still be an enormous structure and would suit her purposes just fine. Your country practically borders Egypt and has much the same terrain, the princess reminded Ibn Faisal. But tourists never visit you because there's no attraction. In fact, when your country is mentioned, most people draw a blank. If anything comes to mind, it's oil wells, excessive profits, religious fanaticism, and vulgar taste. Suppose you were to erect the first full-size genuine pyramid in the Levant in more than 3,000 years. Not only would it attract tourists from all over the world, it would serve as a popular symbol and give your nation an identity. The pyramid could become a showplace for your culture. In addition to bringing in revenue, it would be a great public relations. Folks wouldn't be so quick to think of you guys as nouveau rich barbarians with petroleum under your nails and sand between your ears. Fizzle flinched at those words, but he was fascinated nonetheless. Her proposal made sense to him as a businessman and a patriot. The icing on the pyramid-shaped cake was that she promised to marry him, and when the structure was complete, his pyramid would be a celebrated monument to his love for her, just as the Taj Mahal was a monument to the love of Shah Jahan for his favorite wife. Fizzle was one of the few men on earth who could afford to express affection in such grandiose terms. Following a fortnight of deliberation and consultation with his dad, Aben agreed. Before slipping the diamond on the princess's finger, however, he made a stipulation of his own. It was practically common knowledge that his bride-to-be was no virgin. Fizzle demanded, therefore, that while the pyramid was being built, she reside in his country, near the Fizzle Palace, where that one night a week she admit him to her chambers. Since she had every intention of supervising the construction of the pyramid, and since it behooved her to put distance between her and McNeil Island, Lee Cherie was quite willing to move to Aben's land. As for his demand to trespass weekly in her boudoir, she put it to a vote. Her heart said no, the peach fish said it was about damn time. Ambivalent on the subject, her brain finally decided to vote with the peach fish. Thus was the betrothal announced. Chapter 79. There were moments before her mirror, brushing the hair that flowed like creeks of lava, that trailed like the woven trails of red-hot comets, when she would see a whore's face looking back at her. At those moments, she felt hard and dirty, and she'd spatter the mirror face with tears, mourning girlish innocence, romantic dreams, the dimming of the moon. But in the square beneath her Moorish windows, real camels chewed their cuds. When she parted the brocade draperies, she could see domes, minarets, and date palms, strikingly similar to those on the cigarette package. And on the far horizon, a pyramid, her pyramid, was swiftly rising. It would continue to rise until reaching a height of 160.6 feet. It would spread until it covered 4.4 acres. Period. Its four triangular faces were designed to incline at an angle of 51 degrees, 52 minutes to the ground, precisely the same as Giza's. Naturally, the pyramid would be accurately aligned to the cardinal points, while consultants from Cambridge's astronomy department were assuring that it would have solar, lunar, and stellar alignments as well. Its outer chambers would be given over to cafes, bazaars, and nightclubs, all of the highest quality, to a trade exhibit, and to a small but important museum of Levantine archaeology. The inner chambers were Lee Cherie's alone. In them, she would oversee and conduct exhaustive experiments in pyramidology. Pyramid power, that energy frequency that preserves corpses, sharpens razor blades, amplifies thought forms, and increases sexual vitality, would be studied by the best scientific minds until it was thoroughly understood. And then every effort would be made to put it to the uses that the Argonian masters intended. Perhaps through the impetus of her pyramid, the Redbeards somehow could be retrieved from exile, or a new race of modern Redbeards would be spawned and eventually regain control over solar forces. When she thought of things pyramidal, which was most of the time, it no longer distressed her that she was using Abenfizzle or allowing him to use her. Then she would look in the mirror shamelessly. She'd brush her hair as if it were the aurora of a permanent moonrise. And sometimes she'd lift the camel pack, crinkled and bent from her dressing table, and hold it up to the looking glass, smiling at how the great word choice once more defied the inversions of normal reflection. She had freely chosen the life she now led, and if it had unsavory aspects, well, she must be brave and bear the taint. Not that the liaisons with her fiancé were ordeals for her. Au contraire. Oh, very au contraire.